Hi again, this is John Burroughs, and I'm going to continue on with my autobiography, 7 Years to Life. This is chapter 61, and it's called Dealing Dope and Hating Golf. I was never destined to be a professional athlete, and had I decided to go to college, I probably would not have made many of the teams. I probably would have made a basketball team in junior college or perhaps Division II. I was highly competitive and had a great eye to hand coordination. At least that was what I was consistently told. I was slow of foot, but had a quickness and strong feel for the different strategies of the game. In the mid-70s, I was a young adult and participated in adult league basketball games. The game was quite different then from the game we see today. The leagues I played in back then were some of the most competitive ones for that time. Occasionally we competed against former pros and we held our own. Most of today's players have illusions of grandeur in the sense that they think the harder they work and the more they practice, they will be professional athletes and millionaires. School becomes secondary and is only there as a necessary step toward obtaining their dreams. Many of the parents let this attitude persist and sometimes encourage it. The facts paint a very different picture. I do not know the exact odds of making it into the pros, but from what I have read, it would be idiotic if a young athlete today did not have a well thought out backup plan. Too many of today's kids are idealists and are totally unprepared when reality sets in and it is far from what they thought it would be. I believe this is one of the main causes of the increase in violence in today's headlines. However, that is an opinion and another story that will not be elaborated on any further in this book. We played basketball, and I had to say that many of them who happened to be terrific players and friends had a sense enough to plan for futures that did not include professional sports. We had a great time playing, and after games we would socialize for hours and catch up on what was happening, good or bad, in our friend's life. I am explaining all of this because I was one of the best outside shooters of my time. I do not think there was anyone better, especially if my shot was uncontested. I was decent at baseball and amazing at some of the more indoor, less physically taxing sports, such as table tennis and especially pool. During this time, I was constantly hanging out with some of my all-time best friends, Paul F., Lenny S., and Donnie M. They were avid and talented golfers, and they began to convince me that my hand-to-eye coordination, that I would be a natural at the game. It did not take long to find out that golf and I was a match made in hell. I stunk, plain and simple, and no matter what I tried, I did not get any better. This was particularly frustrating for me because I should have been quite adept at the game. It never happened, and finally one day I put a rock on the pedal of a golf cart and steered it straight towards a water hazard where it submerged, much to my delight. Fortunately, Paul had just removed his clubs from the cart. I became a golfing legend not because of my skill, but because there were so many times when I played so badly that the stories about my ineptitude spread like wildfire. Some of them were slightly exaggerated, but not by much. I was so embarrassed about my game that when we did not have enough players to make a foursome, I would often introduce myself and say it was my first time, even though I had probably already played 50 rounds. I still went with the guys, but I gave up playing and just enjoyed watching. Also, you may have suspected from the title that dope dealing would take place because all of us, except Donnie, were dealers and users. As bad as I was at the game, I have a story I love to tell, especially to those who have never heard it. The closest to me have heard it so many times, but I think they enjoy watching the reactions of the people who have never heard it. One day, Lenny, Donnie, and I were playing at San Mateo Muni Golf Course. I had the biggest slice off the tee that was so pathetic that you could almost believe that it would circle around much like a boomerang and could possibly hit you in the back of the head. I was on the fourth tee with my mortal enemy, my driver, preparing to tee off. It was now my turn to drive the ball. As usual, I swung the ball with all the speed I could muster. As so often happened, the ball began to slice. However, this time I hit an old lady in the golf cart 2 fairways over. The entire time the ball was in flight, I frantically yelled 4, just as I had been instructed to do, if I thought that I might hit someone with my shot. I don't know if the lady had heard my warning, but after she was hit with my shot, she waved her skinny fist at me in a threatening manner. I yelled to tell her that I was sorry, and I truly meant it. A few holes later, I teed off and once again watched my ball slice dramatically to the right. As unbelievable as it sounds, the ball once again traveled 2 fairways to the right and hit the exact same lady in the same leg while she was riding in the same golf cart. The only difference this time from the previous time was that our entire foursome yelled 4 at the top of their lungs. The old lady immediately turned the golf cart up and drove in my direction, pushing that little golf cart to its limits. She pulled the cart right up next to me, got out, and gave me an obscenity-laced verbal thrashing. I completely understood how she had to be feeling, but now my temper began to reach its boiling point when she would not stop yelling at me. My anger threshold gave away, and I screamed at her, and to this day I remember exactly what I said to her. I said, "Lady, stop, think about it. You accuse me of hitting you intentionally. Thank you for the credit, but to hit you twice in the exact same leg while you were riding in the cart intentionally would make me the best golfer in the country. It means that I would have to hit the ball in such a way that I would have to lead the cart by a few yards in order for the cart to collide with my slicing drive and hit you in the leg. It was just a matter of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and to do that twice intentionally, well, that is nothing short of a miracle. Please just drive away and think about the absurdity of what you're accusing me of." She snorted and drove off. I wanted to be a gifted golf player, but sometimes a man has to realize his limitations and accept himself for who he is. I was not then, nor will I ever be, a good golfer.